All right, so 8.5 day 2, we are looking at one thing only today. We're looking at creating equations based on given information. Okay, so we're not actually graphing it all today. We're creating equations based on what they give you. So if we're going to create equations, we need to know the different forms of our equations and the different forms for our quadratics. We've got one that is called standard form, which is the ax squared plus bx plus c. And we know that, we've used that. That's considered our standard form. We've got vertex form, which was f of x is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. The vertex form, and I know you have these in your notes already. Always a good thing to put it again. Sometimes just writing something a second or third time helps you remember it. And then we have intercept form. And intercept form was a x minus p x minus q. So those are the three forms that we are using today. Right there. That's intercept. The same exact thing that I have.
We did for the whole.
Subtraction between x and b and x and q.
No, that's definitely subtract.
No, that's subtraction.
It needs to go back to 2000.
Never mind.
That's this. All right, here we go. That's gonna be riveting for whoever's watching this video. It's gonna make perfect sense too. All right. All of our answers today are gonna be in standard form. Okay, they're gonna want everything in standard form. So when we're done, we want it in that ax squared plus bx plus c. But depending on the information they give us, we might have to start with a different one. Okay, so let's take a look at what that question is going to look like. So here's an example of one of our questions today. Writing a quadratic function in standard form whose graph satisfies the given conditions. And all they tell us is that the vertex is -3, 4. That's all they tell us. So we're going to take that information and we're going to put it into one of our equations. And then we're going to make it look like standard form. So they give us the vertex. Which form should we be using? Vertex form. You guys are good. So we're going to plug in that vertex in for h and k. Okay, and we should be able to do that. We've talked about it before. What if we do that? That gives us x plus 3, because remember you're subtracting that. Let you turn it off. Thank you. So we have that -3, so it looks like x plus 3 there. And then we've got that 4 for the k value. Right? We plug that in. That's what we know. We don't know any other information. Okay? We don't know any other information about our vertex or our equation, which means we don't know anything that can get us that a value. Right? Sometimes they'll give us some extra information. We'll take a look at that in a second. But we don't know what that a value is. So we have to do some assuming. Okay? If they don't give us enough information, we have to assume something. So over here, I'm going to make a list of our assumptions. And we're making a list of assumptions. This is if they don't give us enough information. Okay? If we don't have enough information. So this isn't all the time. This is just if they don't give us anything else, this is our fallback. And our fallback for A, what do you think we can plug in for A if we don't know what A is? What should we put in there? Gibby? 1. We're going to put a 1 in for A. Why not 0? Why can't I put 0 in? Yeah, if I put a 0 in, this whole thing would be gone. And now it's not quadratic anymore. So one of our assumptions is if we have no other way of finding A is gonna be 1. We're trying to find the most basic equation that satisfies the information given. Okay, there are other equations that would work. Any value for A that I plug in here is still gonna have that vertex. But I want the most simple version of it. So I'm gonna put a 1 in there. If I put a 1 in for A, do I even need it there? No, because it's not gonna change anything. So really, I'm just getting rid of that A. Okay. So now I'm here. I got everything that I need for that vertex form. But I'm not done. Why am I not done? What do you mean by that? Standard form. Yeah, they want it in standard form, right? So we got to get it here. So that means we need to simplify it. That's either using the shortcut or thinking of it as x plus 3 times x plus 3 and foiling it. Okay, I want you to go ahead and simplify that. Okay, we want to get that into standard form. Okay, check for somebody, see if they got the same thing.
So you remember we did square.
All right, here we go. Hey, one thing we gotta be careful of. Bye, guys. One thing that we gotta be careful of is we cannot distribute the squared side. That does not become x squared plus 9. Okay, it's either using the shortcut or you're thinking of it as x plus 3 times x plus 3 and you're foiling. Okay, so when I do that, or if I use that shortcut, remember square the first term, square the last term, multiply and double. So 3x times 2 is 6x. That's what I get from that x plus 3 squared. Then I gotta add the 4 on. So it's gonna give me f of x is equal to x squared plus 6x plus 13. So that is our equation. Okay, as you look at that, as you look at your work, what questions do you have? Any questions about finding that standard form equation? David?
Are you gonna have to go from different equations to are you gonna have to go from like intercept to vertex?
No, everything's just going to standard. Yep, no matter what we start with, we're going to standard.
For the -3, why is it input for x instead of like why is it put for h instead of x? Because it's the x value for the.
It's the x value of the vertex. And if you remember in our vertex form, h comma k is the vertex. X would be like another point on the parabola. I could plug in for x and get out my y value. How would you get the standard form from intercept? Just FOIL. Yeah, we'll take a look at that next. We have to FOIL those two parentheses. All right, so let's take a look at something like that with our intercepts. Let's say that they tell us that the x-intercepts are 6 and 2. Okay, if our intercepts are 6 and 2, they give us the intercept. We're using intercept form. And remember, it's x minus for your intercept. So when we plug that in, we're looking at f of x is equal to a, x minus 6, and x minus 2. Did they give us any other information? We have no other way of finding a, right? So a is 1, which again means I can ignore it. If a is 1, it doesn't change anything. I'm just here. Gibby?
What happens if A is
That's the next example we're gonna look at. They're gonna have to give you more information to be able to find a. Okay. So they didn't here. So a is 1. So we're here. All we have to do is FOIL that. FOIL that and get that into standard form. FOIL it, first out and last, we combine our like terms. F of x equal to x squared minus 8x plus 2. Okay, so those two are pretty straightforward when they don't give us any information about the a. Plug in what you know, put a 1 in for a, and then it's just a matter of getting it over to standard form. Okay, any questions so far? All right, they're going to give us that same type of situation, but they're going to give us a little more information. So if we look at letter B up there, now they're giving us 3 points. They're saying it passes through these 3 points, our parabola. Well, 2 of them are the x-intercept. Right? Anytime you have y being 0, that's an x-intercept. So they gave us our 2 x-intercepts of -9 and -2. So we know that. And then they give us some extra information. They give us that 3rd point. That is not necessarily the vertex. So you can't just look at that and say, yep, that's the vertex. I'm going to use vertex form. No. We have intercepts. We have to use intercept form. So let's plug in what we know. Okay. We're going to intercept form again. Let's plug in the intercepts that we know. And then we'll talk about how do we get that A. Go ahead and write it out now with those intercepts in. Okay, so we've got our intercepts. Remember, it's the opposite of what you see because we are subtracting. So x minus a -9 looks like x plus 9, x plus 2. But now we have that extra information. We can solve for a now. We can figure out what a has to be. So I get this -4, 20. What am I going to do with that -4 and that 20? How is that going to help me figure out what a has to be? Debbie, what do you think?
Are you going to divide those? And put that
I'm not going to divide. Nope. Parker?
Plug in -4 and 20 for x and y.
Yeah, I'm going to plug those in for x and y, just temporarily. And we've done this before a couple times. We haven't talked a lot about it. We're going to take that -4, I'm going to plug it in for x. I'm going to take that 20, I'm going to plug it in for y. Because what that's going to do for me is once I'm there, now the only variable that's left is a. So now I can solve this and I can figure out what a has to be. Okay, go ahead and solve that. Solve for a, please. can see it up there. We solve for A. After we plug in that -4, that 20, right? It's just simplifying your parentheses. 5 and -2, multiplying those together to get a -10. And then since we want A by itself, dividing by the -10. We get A is equal to -2. Questions on that part? How to find A? This is just temporarily, right? We're plugging in X and Y to find A. Now that we know A, we have to go back up to the original here and put that -2 in for A. All right, X is still gonna be X, Y is still gonna be Y. I'm just replacing that A with the -2. All of this in red, this was just to figure out what A is. I'm not plugging in the -4 and the 20 anymore. I did that just down here to figure out A. So this is what I have for my equation. I just need to get that into standard form. Meaning I need to FOIL, just like we did before. We gotta FOIL and then distribute the -2 into everything. Why don't you go ahead and do that? FOIL and then distribute the -2. Let's see if we can get that standard form. Let's talk to somebody about it. See what they have. If you're stuck, you're not sure what to do, let's talk to somebody about it. Okay, raise your hand, tell me, what do we get for our equation here? Tim, what do we get?
-2x² minus 22x minus 36.
There you go. Good deal. There's our equation. Guys, I will tell you this right here, this problem, the book loves this problem. You will see this problem on the test as well. Not this exact one. Something like it, where they give you the 3 points. You're gonna see it a couple times tonight. You're gonna see it on the test. Make sure, this is probably the hardest one that you're gonna see. Okay, so make sure you know what you're doing on that type of problem. And when I say hard, it takes the longest, I would say. Okay, it's not bad. Any questions on that before we move on? We got a couple last ones we gotta look at. Okay. So another one that we're gonna see, they might just tell you we have an A of S of X is equal to 3. And that's all they're gonna tell us. Is create an equation where the A of S is equal to 3. Out of our 3 equations, right, standard vertex intercept, out of our 3 equations, there is one place where I can just put the A of S. One letter up there that I can replace with a 3. And there's only one. Talk to somebody about it. Where does that 3 gonna go? That's gonna go out. Yeah.
So that's what I no, it's so smart.
Okay, where do we think we can put that 3? Alyssa? H. H. Goes in for H. Because remember that A of S, that is the X value of our vertex. A of S is always the X value of our vertex. So it's going to go in for H. What we know for sure right now, we know that should be X minus 3. That's what we know for sure. We don't know A, we don't know K. Did they give us any other information? No, if they don't give us any other information. Now we have to start assuming some stuff. What do we assume A is? 1, right? So that's gone. What do you think we're going to assume K is? Not 1. 0. 0. Okay. Remember, the only reason that we assumed A was 1 is because it couldn't be a 0. Everything else, we're going to assume 0. So we're going to assume that K is 0. If we have no other ways of finding it, we're going to assume K is 0. And if K is 0, we can just take that out, right? That does us no good anymore. We don't need a plus 0 hanging around. So now we're just here. We can use that shortcut. Or we can FOIL it, X minus 3, X minus 3. Okay, so a little less stuff we have to worry about now. We can use that shortcut, square it, multiply it, and double to get that equation. Right, so we put in what we know. If we have no other way of finding other stuff, then we have to assume. Okay, and we got to put in some numbers, whatever we can, right? The most basic version of it. Okay, questions on our A of S? Okay, I have one more here that I want you to talk to somebody about and figure out. I'm going to tell you that the range is y is less than or equal to 5. And I want you to create an equation based off of that information and that information alone. Talk to somebody, let's see what we can do.
So if you like, SS is 0 since it
No, he's not gonna do the same. Is it? Yeah.
Think about where that number comes from, right? When we're trying to find the range of something, where does that number come from? All right. What are we going to do with this information? Casey?
If you plug in apply from K.
We're going to plug in that 5 for K. Because remember, if I'm looking at a range of something, that's giving me that minimum or maximum value, which is the Y value of my vertex. So yeah, when we go to put that in, that's going to be K. All right, well, we have nothing for A, we have nothing for H. If I have nothing for H, what am I going to assume it is?
0.
0. H is going to be 0. Okay, because I don't have any other information that's going to help me there. If H is 0, get rid of it. Now, A, I actually do have some information about A. I do. What has to be true about A?
gotta be less than a.
Gotta be what?
Negative. No, negative?
It's gotta be a negative.
Oh, it was.
Why does it have to be a negative?
Because it's going down.
Because the range says y is less than or equal to 5, which means that my parabola is going this way. If here's 5, y is less than or equal to that, it's opening down, which means my a value has to be negative. Right? We've talked about that. So if my a value has to be negative, I'm not going to plug in a 1. Plug in a negative 1. Just make it negative, right? So if I put a negative 1 there, and I start combining everything I have, well, I don't have anything in that parentheses, so I don't have to FOIL, I don't have to shortcut. That's just x squared. I've got a negative out in front. You can either put a negative 1 or just a negative. And that's it. But you got to be aware of anytime they give you that range, does it open up or does it open down? Okay. So if you think about these different forms, and really we're just using vertex or intercept to start, and then we're moving it over to standard. You're never going to jump right into standard. So you got to figure out which one are you going to use, and do I have enough information to find that A or that missing H or K? And if we don't, then plug in what we're assuming. Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. Go ahead.
Don't stop.